had some tech stuff. But we're so glad you're here. There's already 3
Yep.
people here. I'm so excited.
Yay,
Um,
hi friends.
yeah, I'm so excited to have you here because this week we're talking about loving your people well and just being good stewards of our time when it comes to others. So, Tori, how's your week going?
It's going really well. I feel like I've finally gotten over the hump of craziness. It was a little bit of a rough start to the week, but we're booking now. How about you?
We're getting there. Same. I do. I feel like it was like a little bit of an interesting week. Um, but like you said, we're getting there and we're like over the hump. So
Yes.
I'm super excited to chat with you. I love this topic and I know you do too because I know how much you love love.
Yes. I
It's the
love
month of
love.
love, my favorite holiday. I love showing people that I love them. So sounds crazy, right?
No, it's
What about you,
great.
Tori? What do you like about? I feel like you said Valentine's Day was one of your favorites too for some reason. Did you tell me that?
No, but I do love February. I do love the idea of I did tell you, I remember. I did tell you this about, um, as a teacher. I loved Valentine's Day as a
Yeah,
teacher
me
because I
too.
just thought it was like the cutest little holiday, and they would all make little valentines for each other. I don't know, there's just something to be said about like that very simple act of telling people that you care about them and, spending a little bit of your time to be intentional with that.
Yeah, I was reading a study by the National Institute of Health, which actually I have. I'll drop it in the show notes when we rate them after this is over. But I wrote some notes from it. It was a literal study. Okay, they were trying to decide two things, sort of. Well, they were trying to decide like the impact of close friendships and like they call it altruistic love, like unselfish love,
Mhm.
friendships basically, um, on mental health and depression and stuff like that. But in the process, they kind of discovered something else. So they discovered that the older we get, the more, this is how they phrased it. I thought this was super cool. They said, the older we get, the more mattering matters.
Ooh.
I know, isn't it just like, it's like juicy good? They said the older we get, the more mattering matters, which is opposite of what we've always thought. You always think that teenagers need friends and that they want to have a friend group. They're trying to find a place to belong. They are like doing things they shouldn't do to get the approval of others.
Yeah.
But that is a very selfish, it's a very self-centered thing. It's not that they need other people in their life, as in friendships and relationships, is that they need internal validation. Which, okay, when I
Mhm.
heard that, when I read that, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. But that
Mhm.
as we age, mattering matters because we care about others so much more. So
Yeah.
us mattering to them is a kind of a sign of our like footprint on the world, I guess. So I
Mhm.
found that really interesting.
I love that. And I feel like I've felt some of this recently, with moving and trying to rebuild. I'm like, I don't know, it's kind of lonely. And you have this desire to, like just have a friend to come over when you're having a hard day and so I definitely relate to that. I feel like the older that I get, the more I want those like intimate, vulnerable, deep relationships with people.
Yeah.
But how funny is it that it seems harder in adulthood to find those.
It is funny, especially when everyone around you supposedly wants that too.
Right. Our pastor used to talk about this all the time. Specifically in women's ministry, he would say that he said, if I could get all the women who came into my office and said, I'm just lonely and I want connection together, then it'd be great. Like they would, he said, all like there's so many women are desiring this need for connection and to be seen and to be known and to be loved. But for some reason, we've got these barriers up of not being able to make those connections in adulthood. Why do you think that is?
I'm reading a book about this right now. It's well, not really about this. I'm glad you asked that question. I'm curious to hear what you think too, but I'll share what this book says because, okay, there's a caveat. I hesitate to share this book because it's very controversial and I'm reading it to understand the controversy, not
Mhm.
necessarily because I really like fully believe everything that it says.
Right.
Yeah, I just kind of want to like hear some, it's for research. It's called Eve in Exile. Have you heard of it?
Okay. Mm-mm.
It's a classical conversation or like a classical education like a mother of the movement kind of a thing. So she is like extremely traditional in her beliefs. And there's nothing wrong with that, no judgment. She's just very like she says things like, "You're a woman, you are made to work. You are made to work hard, you are made to be exhausted, you are made to like give everything you have to whatever work that it is, and that is your home." Like she really believes that women should be in the house, like not really outside
Mhm.
working corporate jobs. So I don't really like subscribe to like that mindset,
Right.
but I like the point that she's making that like as women we were made to be high achievers, we were made to be helpers, we were made to be successful, we were made to dig in and made to make things happen. We were designed
Yeah.
in like Eden to be workers, to be helpers, literally. So I don't really subscribe to her like maybe the like like the sharpness of it. But
Mhm.
I like the idea that as we were exiled from our created way that we were created, those things that we were built to do sort of became twisted. And so one of the things that she talks about is that like we're literally living in exile now until we can be restored to God in heaven. But that desire in us that was to work has turned into a desire to strive, and that we usually but that like because we're human, our striving is always in relation to someone else's striving.
Mhm.
So it's hard for women to have friendships because of that. We want to succeed, but someone else's success can almost make us feel like we haven't succeeded enough, which is our
Yeah.
internal purpose is to like succeed. So it's like this like very it's just something we have to constantly overcome because we're designed to succeed. And then because of the original sin, in a sense, we can't really ever accept another person's success. And I don't know how much I like believe all of that, but I did find it really interesting that her reasoning for us not being able to make friends is because we can't really accept that just as we were made to work, so were others, and that
Mhm.
others are succeeding differently. I don't know, just
Mhm.
interesting. I don't know if that's
That
even
is
making
interesting.
sense,
It
but
is, yeah.
she basically says it's like a battle with the original sin that we have to fight in order to have good relationships with each other.
Mhm.
I don't know. What do you think? What do you think? Why is it harder for us to make friends as we age?
I think I think something like personally that has been difficult is I feel like I desire these like deep and meaningful and very present relationships. But two things. One, as we age, like our schedules fill with
Yeah,
work and
yeah,
with tasks and with achieving and with,
yeah.
I've got
Doing.
children. And so, yeah. And
Yeah.
so, like, I feel like busyness gets in the way of
Hmm.
present relationships, I guess. But I also feel like there's this like I want these deep relationships, and so in order to get to these deep relationships, I have to be extremely vulnerable and honest with people. To kind of I don't know.
Hmm.
I feel like I want to push past the surface level type relationships, but that's really hard, Kelly.
It's
It's
really
hard
hard.
to be very vulnerable and honest because one, we have to like check ourselves and it makes us be more aware, like self-aware, but also we're kind of opening ourselves to potential hurt with people by being really vulnerable and honest with them. So I feel like there's this tension of, yes, I
Mhm.
really want this, but man, it's really, really challenging.
Yeah, it is challenging. I'm so happy you brought this up. Casey and I just recorded a podcast on a similar topic. We were talking about how like relationships are like an onion.
Mhm.
And so like if you peel back the layers too fast and you like get right to the center, the relationship is over. Because the actual peeling back is the actual building of the relationship. But if you
Mm.
just rush to the center and you get to that like deep meaningful connection that you want so badly, then you've like there's no time there to like actually
Right.
grow the friendship. And we are talking about how hard it is to actually take the time to do all those things, and that every time you have that hard conversation or that like you open yourself up to hurt, that's a layer that you've peeled
Mhm.
off of the onion. That's part of the process of getting there to that like core friendship.
Yeah.
But it is really hard because as like you can only have as deep of friendships as you're willing to peel off layers.
Yeah.
Wherever you get like sticky, like, oh, I'm not comfortable talking about this, or I'm not willing to open up about this, that's where the deepness of your life ends. And it's
Mhm.
complex, Tori, because like if like everybody has that one friend that's an oversharer. I feel like I'm an oversharer. Like we have friends where like, hold on, are you there? Hold on. The office internet isn't the best. Oh, she'll be back. She'll be back. There you are.
I
Hey,
was
that's okay.
so sorry. I was trying to see the comments and it like took me to a thing. So
I don't
sorry
know. I
about
can't
that.
see the comments today either. If you're commenting, I'm so sorry I can't see them. Um, Maybe no one has commented. We haven't really asked any questions yet. I would like to hear though if you've experienced difficulty making friends as an adult because it is really hard. Um, we were talking about Tori like the I feel like it's hard to actually open up to people because sometimes you don't know who to open up to,
Hmm.
or you're just like plain old like maybe you like we're kind of a lonely society, so a lot of us need deep friendships so badly, and we don't feel like we have the time to actually peel back those
Hmm.
layers. It takes time. Oh, I don't know if that's like
Yeah.
if anybody believes that
Yeah,
or
and I think that you've touched on this a few times previously about how like you put in your tending list, you write in your goals that building intentional relationships is something that's important to you. And I feel like there's almost this like, ooh, should we do that? Then is it, like what's the
yeah,
motivation? But I think that because of the way that we are as a society and the way that we're driven to very busy, full schedules, that it is really sweet and meaningful to make those a part of just to be more intentional with them and
yeah,
say, like, I'm putting this on my schedule because it matters to me. And
yeah.
what happens is we're like, well, does that take away I don't know, the
Oh yeah,
personability behind it?
yeah,
But but I think it actually makes it more meaningful because you're saying, I'm putting this on my schedule so nothing else gets in the way of it. Because when we leave it
yeah.
off of our schedule, it's so easy to just not do it and to just stay in our little
Mhm.
cocoon.
Yeah, I had to. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I had to actually like I don't know. I put stuff like you said, I put stuff in my phone. I put like in
Mhm.
the notes section of someone's contact information. I'll put the names of their children, the names of their dog, like their birthday, their spouse's birthday. I try to write stuff in there. A, writing it down helps me remember. But B, having it there helps me like recall those things when I'm trying to have a conversation.
Yeah.
And somebody asked me why I did that. My grandmother taught me to do that. I think we talked about it last week. But one of my friends asked me like, why do I do that? And I was like, oh, because I'm horrible at remembering things, and I'm horrible at following up. And so I told her, I was like, "I feel bad that I have to rely on technology, like, I should just remember." And she was like, "What are you talking about? We can't even remember our Facebook passwords. How are you supposed to remember someone's kids' names?" She was
Right?
like, "That's not it's not selfish or it's not, like, lowly or whatever to use your technology to help you."
Right.
I had to get over that in my life where I felt like, "Oh, I really must be a loser friend. I can't even remember my friend's kid's name." You
But
know?
Kelly, I think I definitely, like, had this same interaction with myself because I was thinking about, like, some of my sweet older lady mentors from Alabama and how they were so good at, like,
Mhm.
sending cards and
Yeah.
checking in. Well, they kept, like, journals, she's
Paper.
got a journal that she
Yeah.
writes it all in. So, it's the same thing.
It
It's
is.
just in a form that's quicker for us to access, and so I had the same thing. I was like, I think that her journal is so sweet. I'm thinking
Yeah.
of a specific person, specific friend of mine. Like, I think her journal is so sweet, and she, like, writes in there when she sends cards and just very thoughtful. Why then is it being in our phones? I think we just are so harsh with ourselves.
I think we are too because we're constantly hearing like, "Put down your phone. Don't be
Mhm.
on your phone so much. Like, you need space from your phone." And we kinda like have demonized our technology in a weird way. We're like, "Stay
Yeah.
off social media. Don't scroll so much." Like, in a weird way, if you'll listen to the messaging that you hear, it's programmed into us that like somehow our
It
phones are
is.
bad. Like, I don't know, but you and I are both teachers, so I see a lot of value in technology. I
Mhm.
find it really incredible that we can do things with our phones and stuff that we could not. We can connect, like even this being able to connect with our community on a podcast is just a really beautiful thing. Um, so Tori, not to shift gears, but I wanted
Let's
to say something
shift.
that it's not really a shift. I just wanted to talk to you about something that I read in my research from the National Institute of Health when I was reading about the older we get, the more mattering matters. They said that what they discovered is that the strongest friendships are what they said was a sharing of destinies.
Oh, tell me more.
Well, it didn't really elaborate on it. I just thought
Oh,
that was a really interesting way of phrasing
shared
friendship,
relationships.
and then I started to think, one thing that bothers me about men, we're not gonna get on the man hater train, but I'm not a man hater, I just find this really fascinating, is that men, if you'll notice this, men often connect with people based off of their hobbies.
Mhm.
Like, I like football, I like basketball, whatever, like, they have golf friends, like, they have
Right.
friends that they do things with. It doesn't matter, like, if they're single or married or kids or whatever. But have
Right.
you noticed, like, as you've gotten older, that so many of your female friendships revolve around your situation in life? Like, when you were
Yeah.
single, you had single friends, and you got young married friends, and you had kids, now you have mom friends. Like,
Yeah.
it seems like women literally share destinies with each other in a sense. And I
Yeah,
find
like
that
roads, paths.
it's interesting, but I don't know, do you agree with that?
I do, in a way. I feel like, let me say this. I feel like those relationships are the ones that come the easiest. They're not easy, but I feel like the other types of relationships take a little bit more intentionality and focus to
Mhm.
really build, because you're just like, well, you're not in my season, you don't understand, or you're not, whatever,
Yeah.
whatever. And so I feel like we just kind of fall into those kinds of friendships because they're just happening while we're going about life. So yes, I do agree with that, but I do think that, like anything, we can make other things work if we choose that is what's important to us.
Wow, that's a major mic drop right there. We fall into friendships because we're going that way anyway, you're saying.
Yeah.
I think that's very interesting. Like, what if you weren't like, do you have any, you don't have to name any names, but have you had in the past, or do you have any friends that you would not have otherwise bonded with had you not been on the same path?
1,000,000%.
Yeah, me too.
I specifically, and I wanna hear a couple of yours, and I'm not gonna say names, but, like, specific incidences. So, and it's really interesting because as I was thinking about today's, podcast, I was thinking about this same topic, but, like, specifically after child loss, like, I became friends with people who had lost children that we had literally nothing else in common, but because we experienced that thing, we became friends because we understood this piece of each other that other people couldn't. And so, in that way, I do think that we become friends based on destiny, if that's what they want to call it, because nobody else could quite understand that part of our life the way that someone else who also experienced it had. Like, we would not have been, we didn't run in the same circles, we didn't have the same interests,
Yeah.
we didn't live in the same places. But because we shared that experience in common, we developed these deep, vulnerable relationships and friendships. What about you?
That's so interesting. I have a follow-up question though. For those friends, have you been able to take that relationship out of that context? Like, I'm gonna give you teachers as an example. Whenever
Uh
teachers
huh.
get together, what do they always talk about?
Teaching.
Teaching. That's all teachers ever talk about when they're
Oh,
together. So
right.
it's like really hard to break out of that. Like, if you work with somebody or something, it's hard to like. The episode today is about loving your people well. So if you like these people and you love them, you have this shared common bond. How do you break out of that? This
Mhm.
is the thing that we bond over, and that's it.
Yeah, I think, again, and I think this is kind of the theme of today's podcast, is we have to choose to be really intentional with the
Mhm.
conversations that we have. And I think with coworkers that you're desiring a relationship outside of work, you have to be very intentional that when you have conversations, you ask questions that don't have anything to do with work.
Yeah, I
Or,
agree.
you talk about things that aren't happening in the office.
Mhm.
Because, like, I think of you and I, for instance, like, when we're at work, we're going to talk about work things. We get to talk to each other and it's fun.
Yeah,
We talk about
yeah,
work things. And yes, we could talk about work things outside of work too, but I love to just, like, chat
talk.
with you, and I want to
Yeah,
hear about your life and what you did.
same,
And I
yeah.
think that's how you develop those relationships outside of work, but I don't think it's easy. Do you?
It's not, no, it's not easy. I was thinking about loving your people well. I think it's really, really hard to break out of that. I don't wanna really wanna call it a rut because that could sound bad, but I'll give you an example. So my teacher friend started a book club, and it was really awkward because we were sitting there, and we were at this cute little place. It was called Cheese Please in Tampa. If any of you guys are Tampa people, Cheese Please is so cute.
Please, please.
Um, yeah, it's just really cute. It's fun, and you're not You don't feel teachery at all
Is
there.
it like fondue? Sorry, this is
No,
totally off.
no, that's okay. It's like wine and cheese pairings.
Okay, because all I'm thinking is like a fondue cheese place, you know?
I didn't see any fondue, it's more hip than that. It's
Okay,
like
I'm
they
with you, I'm
bring it out
following.
on, like, a really unique charcuterie board, and they, like, have it's like stuff you've never heard of before, you can't pronounce or spell. Like,
I love
it's
that.
but it's super cool, yeah. So we're having this, like, really fun experience, and it was and my friend said no one is allowed to talk about work. So she was like, "Decide your level of comfort, but don't bring up school." And so I was already not this is what brought me to this conclusion. I was already not teaching anymore. So I didn't have anything to add to the conversation and I was nervous to go. Actually, I made a little list of things that I wanted so cultivating. I wrote it down
I love
before because I wanted to be intentional with my conversation. So I didn't want to forget what I wanted to say. It's like total cultivator. But I wrote out some things that I could safely discuss with these people that I had only known in a work setting. And I was really relieved to find out that they felt really awkward too at first. But then after that, it just became really normal. And I do think that I do think intentionality is one thing, but I will say that there was a girl that was there who was really uncomfortable. She even said like school is my life. Teaching
Mhm.
is my life, and so I don't have anything else to say, and I think that was really kind of a turning moment for me in a sense because I've had times like that too, where
Mhm.
my job was my life, or maybe my family was my life, or maybe my whole entire focus was on one
Mhm.
particular area of my life, and Power Sheets and Cultivate really helped me with that, helped me to see how all the different aspects of my life, like faith, family, finance, all that stuff can actually be part of like a really whole and well lived life, but it just takes
Yeah.
intentionality. And I think you become that person who can't break out of those paths that you're on with somebody when you're just super in the throes of it. And I think that comes with a caveat. Like there are times, like I'm sure right after you lost your son, that that's really all you could do was grieve that you want to talk to other people who understood, and that was like your main, like that's what you were really needing to focus on at that time. But now like a little bit past it,
Yeah.
you have other hobbies and interests that you can that your mind has like healed enough to actually pursue. So I think with grief and that kind of thing is probably a little bit different. But I have just I'm trying to become a person who is interesting, maybe like not
You
interesting.
are
That sounds
interesting.
awful. No, that
You
sounds terrible. That's
are
what I mean. But like,
interesting.
what do I bring to a conversation? Like, do I have
Yeah.
like can I talk to somebody about their life? Do I know enough about the world? Have I read enough? Or can I bring
Mhm.
anything to the conversation that's not just like, listen to me talk about my life?
I love that you just said that because I was just thinking, why is it so difficult to develop relationships outside of work, outside of, whatever
Mhm.
season we're in? And I was thinking like, well, you work with me. Like we've got to find a way to get along, not
Not
that we have an
hard.
issue, but you work with
Yeah.
people. And so you're like, okay, we have to you can appreciate someone for the work that they bring or for their talents or their
Yeah.
skills. When it's a friendship outside of work, there's nothing that's saying like you have to get along with me. You can say
Yeah.
like I don't really like you. And so it's it's a little scarier to come and be like I don't have any skills that I'm bringing to the table that will build this relationship. I don't have any like there's nothing tying us
Yeah.
together. And so it's almost this well, are they like am I going to be enough? Is what I have to bring to the table going to be interesting enough or valuable enough that
Mhm.
people will want to continue a relationship with me. So I think that fear gets in the way a lot of times when we're trying to be intentional with the people that we care about or that we want to build relationships with.
I totally agree. I cannot agree with that more. I don't really know the solution to that except for like I think I've told you this before. I've heard there are two kinds of people in the world. There are people who say, "Here I am," when they walk into a room, and they expect everyone to notice them and everyone to fall at their feet and make them feel loved and special. And then there are other kinds of people who say, "There you are." And those are the kind of people that focus on you and they make you feel so loved and so warm when they're around you. And I think that's kind of an integral part of um, friendships.
Yeah.
But I think that comes from a place of deep security. I think
Yes.
that comes from knowing that your priorities are in order, knowing what matters to you, and not being tossed aside or not getting tossed by the wind if the
Mhm.
person that you're talking to doesn't agree with you or doesn't reciprocate that interest in your life because you have a deep you know what makes you you, and you're secure in that.
Mhm.
I know Power Sheets has helped me a lot with that, just knowing what
Same.
matters to me and how yeah, I don't know.
And learning to be okay with what matters to me is not the same thing that
Yeah,
matters to you. And that doesn't make us incompatible. It just
yeah,
means that we've decided what we're going to do with our lives in this season.
yeah.
Okay, I have a question for you. Let's get practical. You ready?
I'm ready. I think I was
Okay.
gonna ask you the same question, but we'll see.
Oh,
Tell
were
me.
you? Okay, well we'll question back and forth.
I kinda
So,
wanna
Kelly,
write down
you
what I was gonna ask you so that we could compare, but
okay.
I'm just gonna listen.
You're very, very good at this. And so I want to know, what are some things that you do to be intentional with the people that you care about?
That was literally
Just
what I was gonna
very,
ask you.
very tangible, actionable things.
Tori and I like to surprise each other with questions so we can get each other's real response.
Right? No preparing.
Not for this. That's a really good question. I my real ace in the hole is writing down people's things in my phone. Putting it in the notes app on my phone is really helpful, and I also use my calendar on my phone to write down if someone has an appointment or something. If I forget, like I texted you about Matt's appointment, like, "When is Matt's appointment?" Because I didn't write it down, and I feel embarrassed that you told me and that I didn't
No.
immediately I know you don't care that I asked you
No, but
again,
I
but
love that about you because it just shows how intentional you are, and how, like, it makes me feel so loved that you would care enough to want to know when it is. Like, I feel like that's what you're so good at. You're so thoughtful,
so are
and
you.
you make me feel seen, which is a deep desire of mine as an Enneagram too. Because
I
I
gotta
want to
figure
be
out what my
seen.
Enneagram is, Tori. This is our next road together is what is my Enneagram? Um,
Mm.
I think that's very valid to say that. Like, yeah, I'm glad that it didn't make you. I was like, oh, Tori. But see, this is maybe I am a two because I was like, Tori's gonna be upset because I didn't remember, and I'm having to ask her again, and I feel really embarrassed for not.
Can't even remember.
I know,
Can't expect you to remember.
I know. It's just this like thing that I have where I want to remember things. So that's like my big thing is putting things in my phone. Did you ask me for three, or did you just say how?
Just your tips.
Just how, yeah. So that's one thing that I do. The second thing that I do, Tori, I learned this from a friend, a very good friend of mine. I met her through an online class. We'd never met in person. Um, and I liked her a lot. I had a lot of respect for her. I wanted to develop a relationship with her. Um, but I was having a really hard season in my life. And so I wasn't really good at texting back. And honestly, I'm a horrible texter anyway. So it's not the best. But she sent me a text and she said, "Send up a flare. Are you out there?" And I had a moment. I was driving in my car because I had been telling myself, "I need to text her back. I need to text her back." I didn't know her very well. She had been sending me lots of sweet stories about her kids and just trying to build a friendship with me. And I was like, I had a moment where I was like, I can either tell her what's going on in my life and why I've been so unresponsive, or I can just be like, "I'm so sorry, I don't have capacity," or I cannot answer her back. And I remember thinking, I really like her. I want to be her friend. I'm going to open up to her and tell her about what's going on and why I've been so unresponsive. And it was a turning point in our friendship where taking that step of being like, "I am so sorry. I've gotten your messages. Um, I've gotten your messages. I've enjoyed seeing the pictures and stuff of your kids. Please keep contacting me. I don't have a lot of capacity because I'm dealing with this and it's been really hard for me." And I learned from that situation that just like literally communicating how you communicate is so helpful, Tori. I've read research that says your communication style is the thing that's most likely to determine who your friendships are. Like if you're a
Ooh,
short texter, you're not going to be friends with someone who's like a super texter
yeah.
because it bothers, so you don't communicate the same way. So
Or
I've learned
there's me that's a text
that's okay.
5 in a row
But
instead of
my
one big
sister's like
paragraph.
that, so I've learned to just like let them come in. But I think that there's something, like, really valuable to that, and I think honestly just saying, I my favorite thing to do with my text message is to say, "I will mark this unread. I can't answer you back right now, but I'll mark this unread so I can come back to it later," or something, just communicating, like, "I can't do it
Yeah.
now, but I'll look later," or, "I wanna think of" saying out loud, "I wanna think about this." Um, I think honestly just communicating, like, how you communicate is really helpful. That's been helpful
Yeah.
for me, I think because I'm a bad texter. I
I'm
don't
not a
mean to
bad
be
text.
I don't mean to be a bad texter, it's just, like, I feel like I keep my notifications off all day long, so I just, like check my text at certain times throughout the day.
Mhm.
But anyway, what about you, Tori? What do you do that's intentional for your friends?
I feel like something that I need, and so I try to give is like a safe place to be, like, like
You're
I
good at that.
want, oh, thanks. I want to create a safe place. Like, you don't have to be anything, you don't have to
Mhm,
show up a certain way. Like, I love you for who you are, not for
mhm,
what you bring to the table.
mhm,
And I feel like just allowing people to be seen where
mhm.
they are and to be okay with wherever they are is really important. Um, and I'm really try to just be really honest about where I am too.
Yeah,
Like, this
I
is
love
this
that
is
about
what's going on. This is where I'm at. This is what's going on in my head. So that, because I feel like it's very easy for us to take things personally
you. Mhm,
when somebody's acting differently towards us, or
mhm,
and
mhm.
I just want to be very careful with people that, like, this is where I'm at, so that you can kind of gauge what's going on.
Yeah, I love that you communicate that really well. So going back to the first thing that you said about creating a safe place, I don't know if you do this or not, but I've noticed this about you in different aspects of our life, in our Gold School Premium classes, all over the place. I don't know if you intentionally do this or if it's just kind of innate in you, but I really like how you call out feelings that you notice. You'll say, "Oh, that sounds really hurtful." Or you must have been really nervous, or you must have been kind of scared in that situation. I've seen you do that a lot in our Gold School Premium classes. You'll be like, "Oh, that's so scary." And you like call out people's emotions before they really say it. And I really like that about you. I don't know if
I
you do
want
that
to
on purpose or
cry.
not.
I
Why?
want to cry because, so, you know this about my daughter, but she struggles with her feelings. She's
Mhm,
diagnosed OCD, and so she really struggles with anxiety and her feelings. And so, something that we did to help her was to try to help her identify
mhm,
what she was feeling, and then take away the scariness or the badness of those
mhm.
feelings. And so I have tried to be very, very intentional with that, and I it makes me very happy that it translates outside of,
Yeah.
because I think, again, there's just this desire in us to be seen. We just want to be seen. And we I don't, I feel like we go through life so quickly that a lot of times we forget to see people. And
Yeah. That's
and so I
that's so true.
thank you for saying that. That was really kind.
Yeah, it was very true about you. I agree with you there. And then the second thing you said, I should have written it down. Wait, what did you say?
I
The
don't
second thing.
remember.
You
I don't
said the
remember.
second way that
Oh,
you.
like trying to let people know
Oh yeah,
where
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
at. Yeah,
Yeah, you
so
try to let
that
people know
they
where you're at. I like that about you too. And what I really like about you, Tori, is that you are okay with changes. Like if today someone is overwhelmed, tomorrow they can be in the same circumstances but not overwhelmed, and that's okay too. Like
yeah.
right now in this moment, I feel overwhelmed or I feel sad or I feel stressed, but tomorrow is going to be a new day, and it's you don't like hold people's feelings over day after day after day. I really like that about you. I feel like that's part of that safe space thing. Like I can have, even if my circumstances aren't changing, I can still feel something different in the moment. I think that's probably the two in you. That's just very accepting of people. But I think that's
Well,
right.
and I think too, like, I don't know, I always try to be very aware, and I feel like you're very good at this too, of like, feelings are okay. Like, we can
Yeah.
feel overwhelmed, but we're not going to camp there, because that's
Hmm.
not what ultimately rules our life. So my
Yeah.
friend always used to say this. She reminded me this a lot after Kaden died, of like, you can pitch a tent, but you don't build a house.
Okay.
Like, you can
I
be
love that.
really sad here for a minute, but we're not going to build a house here, because that's not the truth of our life.
Great
And
thing.
so, yeah, I feel like
That's
you're really good
great.
at that too, because you
Okay.
allow me to kind of feel whatever it is that comes, and
Yeah.
then we move on to the truth.
I
So,
think it's really awesome. I think those are like all really good ways to build friendships. What I like about the things that we've shared today is that they're not really prescriptive. Like that you can
yeah.
do that however that means to you. Whatever creating a safe space for your friends looks like to you, um, can be you can work that out. Like how does
Yeah.
that look when it comes to cultivating what matters? Before we go, Tori, should we talk about the little love notes challenge starting next week?
Yes. I'm
Okay.
so I'm I feel like I say this every week. I'm so excited. I need new words. I am very I'm excited. I'm not there are no other words. I'm very excited for this challenge, and for the cute secret that's coming.
Is it
It's
a
freebie.
secret?
Well, it's not yet. Or
Yeah, there's
it's not
more than
gonna
one
be.
freebie.
I know.
There's like 3? Well, yeah, because there's the bingo card, which I'm gonna talk about. and then the 2 coordinating cutesy freebies that are so cute. Okay, so here's the little Love Notes challenge. We will email all the details. So if you're on our email list, then you'll get those in your email. But basically, every single day next week, we're going to send you an action item to prepare for Valentine's week. So our hope that through the little Love Notes challenge is that you will be able to stop and pause and encourage somebody that means something to you, that matters to you. We've got a whole bunch of ideas. We're going to send you a bingo card that has tons of ideas for how you can cultivate what matters with handwritten notes and handwritten, I guess, with gestures with handwritten notes. We've got a bingo card for you. So it's technically 2 weeks long, but we only have 5 days of action for you. So each day next week, we're going to send you an email with a little task that you can do to gather some supplies, to get some printable cards that we will not share yet. We've got a bunch of cute things for you, a bunch of cute action items. And each day of the challenge, along with your bingo card, you are going to create some little things to encourage people that are in your life that you love. And then during Valentine's Day week or on Valentine's Day, you will deliver all of the things that you've created little by little over the course of next week. So we're really excited about that challenge. We're going to post about it on social, and we will also send you an email with all the details. But we do want to make you aware that it's coming up. It starts on Monday, and we'll get all that to you. So sign up for our email list if you're not already on it. Tori, did I forget anything about the challenge?
No, I think it's just perfect. It aligns so perfectly that we're talking about being intentional with your people, and we have this challenge coming up. So I think it'll be great. And even if you don't like Valentine's Day, this is more
Yeah.
about loving your people well and telling them why you love them than it is about Valentine's Day.
Yeah, I love that. So good. All right. Well, we will see you next week at the end of. Hey, Bonnie, nice to see you. Glad you're here. We will end today with a little. I'm going to end with a little get your supplies ready. You may want some, creative craft marker kind of situations for these fun surprises that we have, freebies. We'll see you next week on Thursday. We'll end the little Love Notes challenge with a bang, and we will chat about how it went and continue with our discussion this month. All of February, we're talking about the power of presence. And so today we talked about loving your people well, and then next week we're going to talk about how we can actually savor everyday moments like laundry,
Mhm.
household chores, all those little things that can kind of pile up on us. We're going to talk about
Simple
how
joys.
to savor them. Simple joy. Yeah. All right, Tori, it was so good to see you as always. Thank you all so much for joining us. We will see you next week, same time, same place.
Can't
Bye,
wait.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.